Hi guys, it's Han here. Today we're going to check out 2024 top-of-the-line INFINITI QX60, thanks to Tim for help, by Lexus from Tim. Welcome to subscribe my car reviews channel both in English and Chinese. Thanks for subscribing, liking, commenting, sharing, and lighting up the bell. The predecessor of QX60 is INFINITI's JX series. In order to follow the unified naming rules of the family, the 2014 model JX was renamed QX60. The current product is its second generation model, which was launched in 2022 model. We had a video about it when it was launched. In fact, its first generation product sold well in the US market due to its good cost performance. Since the launch of the second generation products, one has been the intensive launch of new products in the US midsize SUV segment in recent years, including ordinary brands and so-called luxury brands, have many new products. Furthermore, due to the influence of the group, brand, and even the general environment of the auto market, the INFINITI brand currently does not have a strong presence in the US market. Actually, I think it's still a very strong product, but in the year of 2023, it was sold less than 30,000 units in the US market. Let's look at Toyota's Grand Highlander, or TX. It has achieved huge sales volume in just a few months since its launch. I wonder how the bosses of Nissan feel about it. In terms of external dimensions, we can see the QX60 is slightly longer in wheelbase than the Acura MDX. Overall length is still close to the MDX, but the width of the vehicle hasn't always been Nissan's strong suit, and the height is slightly taller than the MDX. But in every dimension of the exterior parameters, it's much smaller than the new Toyota Grand Highlander, or the Lexus TX for that matter. As you can see, the QX60's ground clearance is the smallest of the three. The suspension is McPherson in front and multi-link in rear. In terms of powertrain, there's only one powertrain for the INFINITI QX60. It's a 3.5-liter V6 VQ engine with a 9-speed automatic transmission with front-wheel drive and four-wheel drive options. So from the powertrain, compared to the competition, no matter the Nissan Group or the INFINITI QX60, they are not as rich as their opponents in terms of powertrain technical lines or gasoline engine types. The response to the market is also much slower. Frankly speaking, I personally like this VQ engine very much and very emotional about it. To this day, the power performance of this engine is still very eye-catching. It has awesome speed-up feedback when driving. But it has to say, to this day Nissan has stuck with one engine in this class and hasn't expanded on it, which is really sad. The QX60 looks slightly heavier than the 3.5-liter MDX on curb weight, but it's still quite a bit lighter than the TX350. QX60 has an 18.5-gallon 70-liter fuel tank. According to figures released by the EPA, the QX60 front-wheel drive product gets 23 mpg and 10.2 liters per 100 kilometers combined. The four-wheel drive product gets 22 mpg, or 10.7 liters per 100 kilometers. In the 2024 model, the QX60 has a total of 4 basic trims. The starting price of MSRP is much more expensive than when it was first launched. If we compare the MSRP without freight of the QX60 with the 3.5-liter V6 MDX, and the 2.4-liter turbocharged TX350, the starting price of the QX60 is slightly lower, and the price range is relatively wider, but everyone should know that this is already entire product range of the QX60. In the MDX and TX series, there are also higher-end and more expensive models. Viewed at this way, the pricing of the QX60 is relatively low-key among Japanese brands of the same level. The vehicle we are checking out today is new car for sale at Tim here. It's a 2024 model, top-of-the-line QX60 front-wheel drive version. Comes with a panoramic sunroof, Bose audio, 265/50R 24 wheels. MSRP with shipping fee is $65,730. The engine, transmission, and final assembly line for this vehicle are all from the US plants. Personally, I like the look of this vehicle. The exterior of this car, it not only inherits the family's classic design, but also incorporates some of the latest design elements in today's auto industry. The front cabin looks relatively slender, with some gentle waves on it, which is the tradition of INFINITI. The relatively narrow light group and the design that extends outwards, which is the latest fad in the auto world. The shape of the grille still maintains the style of the INFINITI family, and the black material inside seems to pay tribute to the former FX35. The design below the bumper is relatively complex. There is no design of light groups below both sides. Although it is designed like an air guide, it is not air-through. I personally like the side shape of this vehicle. I think it's quite beautiful. The front cabin has a slightly slender shape. Although it's not small, it does not make it particularly boxy in order to expand the space inside. It still has a certain sense of design, and you can also see that there is a slightly fastback shape at the back. The D-pillar is not designed to be particularly straight. The side lines of the vehicle are not very complicated, but they are concise. but not simple. The overall appearance is very rounded. The rear part here has the effect of enlarging and fattening. In terms of color matching and decoration on the side, it has its own characteristics. Because it is the top trim, the luggage rack is in black, which is also a color unique to the top version. Around the windows, it's decorated with chrome stripes. There's a cornice effect at the back, where the D-pillar is the same color as the glass, which Nissan has been using for a long time, and it's been sticking with that. We've noticed on the 24 QX60 that there's been some improvements to the material of the exterior door handles this time. It's not like the light chrome-plated material of the previous INFINITI family. The current material seems relatively thick and feels good to hold. The door covers the lower edge of the vehicle body. Very good. The opening angles of the four doors are not exaggerated, just right. As a top-of-the-line model, the glass of only the two front windows is double glazing. The glass in both rear windows is single glazed. As a reference to my height, there is no inelegant posture when getting in and out of this vehicle, and there is no need to use any pedal devices. But frankly speaking, the height of the interior floor is still relatively high. Its chassis is not too high though. There are two sizes of wheels in the QX60 series, 18-inch and 20-inch. This vehicle uses 20-inch wheels. The color of the wheel appears to be fairly good. There are both black and bright colors, which I personally prefer. Of course, it looks very Nissan. The front brake disc of this vehicle is a ventilated disc with a diameter of 13.78 inches, and the rear one is a ventilated disc with a diameter of 12.99 inches. Frankly speaking, compared to the shape of the front face and side of this vehicle, I personally don't like the shape of its rear part very much. I think its design is too complex. It seems that the designers went a little too far in the design of the rear end. They seem to want to apply all the popular elements on the market and the family to the rear part of this vehicle. Above is a spoiler integrated with a high-mounted brake light, and the shape is very elegant. There is a door frame style aerodynamic part on each side. The rear wiper is also retained, but the wiper is not hidden under the spoiler. The taillight below looks like a through-type taillight, but it is not. There is a black decorative panel in the middle. The camera for the rear view mirror is here, and the camera for the backup view is here. Trunk switch is here. The bumper platform is slightly protruding. Above the bumper position, I think it's acceptable. Below the bumper, I think the design is too complicated. Below the bumper, in order to echo the shape of the plastic parts on the front and sides, the plastic below it has an upward shape. It also has only one exhaust, which is placed on the right side with a hidden design. But it makes 4 exhaust decorative pieces. In my opinion, it is too flashy to really fit with the overall style of the vehicle. I don't really like it. The INFINITI key. It comes with power tailgate. There's a light on the tailgate inside. You can see that the lower edge of the trunk is relatively high. When the third row of seats is opened up, the trunk space is not large. The depth down there is in 4.5. There's a folding hook on both left and right, and the hooks look strong, and there are buttons underneath to adjust the third row seats. It's standard on the high and top trims. A 12-volt charger socket underneath. Hooks at the top. There's a very strong hook on the bottom left and right. What INFINITI does very good is, as you see, right on the side wall. It's not black plastic part. It's not going with the flow. It's still going with the carpet material as old school. So nice. Lift up the cover, which has its own damping, not fall down by itself unless you move it. The vehicle tools and a jack in it. INFINITI QX60 comes standard with a compact spare tire, which is under the vehicle, not in the trunk. The third row of seats can only be power raised, not power lowered. A little bit strange. You'll have to fold it down manually. Here's the space performance when third row folded down. The space performance with both the second and third rows folded down. Compared with the one we saw last time, this time the configuration is higher. There are diamond patterns on the leather panels of the center console, which feels quite pretty and high-end. All 4 windows with one-touch auto function. There aren't too many buttons on the left side. It has head-up display, which its size is quite large, but the clarity is really mediocre. The entire series, except for the entry level, uses a dashboard in the form of an LCD screen, which should be familiar to us. It is also a common part of the Nissan group. The latest one, it has 2 display modes. One is the traditional display mode with 2 large circles. The other is to shrink the 2 roundels and place them on both sides. The display area of the center is increased. Adjust via the buttons on the left side of the steering wheel. The dashboard is clear and uncluttered. If we just talk about this steering wheel, it feels so good. But as high-end series products of the INFINITI and Nissan families, it is appropriate to use the same steering wheel as the cheaper models of family. The leather is very delicate and feels great. The shortcut buttons are also the latest common parts of Nissan. The material of the button and the feeling of pressing it are consistent with those of other products in the Nissan family. There is no other high-end setting only for the INFINITI brand. There are paddle shifters. The light set has automatic on and off, also with automatic high beam functions. The front wipers have rain sensing function. This one comes with a rear view mirror camera and 3 garage switches. The glasses case is large, does not have a panoramic mirror. The central screen is slightly tilted toward the driver's side, but the angle of tilt is not large. This screen is both a touch screen and controlled through the control device below. The screen responds quickly and the content is relatively concise. This car has wireless connection for Android connection and iPhone CarPlay. It's equipped with panoramic images. The 17-speaker Bose stereo is standard on the high and top trims, optional on the mid trim, front and panoramic views. Right side blind spot. Front view. Backup camera with panoramic view. Frankly, it's a big on display size, but the clarity is just so. The air conditioning control is not integrated into the central screen. There is a separate AC control mechanism. The control mechanisms are all touch buttons. When you touch them and start to work, they have sound and vibration feedback. It's quite good. Both front seats have 3 levels of heating and ventilation. Heated steering wheel. There are personal driving mode, sport mode, normal mode, eco mode, and snow mode. There are USB and Type-C port below, both of which can be used for data. A wireless charging pad here. The cover of the central armrest box is relatively large and very thick. There are also various storage compartments inside. There is a 12V charger socket in it. Fleece lining on bottom and all sides. Now I adjust the seat to the lowest position, and you can see that the space performance is still very good. The seats are generally quite great. There are still many adjustment items for high-end and top-end trims. The adjustment items for the driver and passenger are also very consistent. They both have 4-way lumbar adjustment function and massage function, and both have 2 seat memory functions, which is wonderful. Its skin is made of semi-aniline leather, which is also a unique configuration of the top trim, which feels very good and comfortable to touch. And the seats are also wrapped in light-colored leather, which feels more upscale. As you can see, the seat cushion is long enough to support my legs very well. The seats can clearly feel biased towards European design. The seat padding is not very soft. Compared with the comfortable and soft feeling of a large sofa from Nissan in the past, this set of seats feels more like an ergonomic seat with good body support. There are certain bulges on both sides of the seat cushion and seat back. It's very comfortable, but I still miss the feeling of the big couch of Nissan style before. I hope that Nissan will not lose itself in the new automobile era. Be sure to maintain and stick to your strengths. As a top-end model, it has relatively high configurations. Its driver's seatbelt will actively pull you when you insert or release it, which looks very German. This is indeed rare on Japan brands at this price. When I adjust the seat to the bottom position, I can feel like I'm stuck in it while driving. I still prefer this feeling. The upper part is made of soft materials, wood grain decorative panels feels very good, leather decoration and decorative panels. On the passenger side, here below are wrapped in soft material. The lower part of the driver's side is made of hard plastic. The door panel is made of soft materials, upper decorative panels, leather, and the lower part is made of hard plastic. The upper part of the center console where the legs can rest is made of soft plastic, and the lower part is made of hard plastic. There is also a storage underneath, but I really don't recommend put things here. Although it is a top-of-the-line model, its roof is still made of fabric. Looking at the door frame from the car, you can see the metal part of the door frame, but it is painted black. It's not very loud when the windows are working. There's a deceleration when they close, but the noise control isn't perfect. You can clearly see that the second row has a heightening effect, and the line of sight in the second row is much higher than that in the first row. The space is great, no issues. Look at the headroom and legroom are both perfectly fine. If talk about the second row of seats alone, they are quite comfortable to sit on, but if compared with the first row of seats, the most comfortable seats in the whole car are still in the first row. The seats in the second row are obviously thinner than those in the first row. Everyone can see that both the seat cushions and the seat backs are not as thick as those in the front row. The padding in the second row seats doesn't seem as soft as in the first row, but I believe that's cause the seats aren't quite as thick. The cushion height of the second row of seats is okay, but the length doesn't seem perfect. However, it's understandable that it's trying to save more space inside. There is an armrest on only one side of the seat. The elbow on the other side can only rest on the door panel. The seat is in very front, in the very back, and slightly forward. The seat back angle is the max. The second row is in the form of 2 captain seats, which is only standard on the top trim. There is a storage compartment in the aisle between the 2 seats. The idea of designing this storage compartment here is great, but I think this storage compartment could be made more amazing. According to my understanding of Nissan products, Generally, the storage compartments in the aisles can be easily removed, but I have not found a way to remove this storage compartment, which may be my fault. As a top trim, its rear air conditioning can be controlled by separate zone. These two seats have 3 levels of seat heating function, but no ventilation function. There is a USB and a Type-C charging socket below, and a 120-volt, 150-watt 3-phase power socket on this side. The floor of the second row is very flat, doesn't have any bumps. The panoramic sunroof shades open up here. Also sunshades for the second row. The top of the door panel is made of soft materials, decorative panels, soft materials, leather. The lower part is hard plastic. Looking at the door frame inside, metal parts can be seen, are also painted black. The sound of the window working is very quiet too. There's a deceleration when the glass is about to touch the frame, but it's still not perfect. Sitting in the third row, as you can see, the space in the third row is really not good. The seat back cannot be adjusted too far back, if that my head could touch the rear beam. If it is adjusted slightly forward, my hair can touch the ceiling, but my head can't touch the ceiling. As for the legroom, this seat is adjusted to the farthest back and slightly forward position, so my legs can get in. The problem again is that the seat cushion is not high enough or long enough to support my thighs. In this case, most of my thighs are hanging in the air. In comparison, I feel that the third row of this vehicle is not much different from the third row of a Acura MDX in terms of space and seat performance. If you compare it to a TX with a larger form factor, the third row is not as good as the TXs, although the TXs aren't that perfect either. A Type-C charger socket on each side, cup holders on each side. In summary, this is the video of this top trim 2024 QX60. We have talked about the dynamic experience in more detail before, so we won't go into details today. I think that in general, this QX60 is very strong in terms of product alone, at least not worse than competing products on the US market today. Whether the design looks good or not is a matter of opinion. In terms of interior space, it is relatively close to the Acura MDX. Its interior space is smaller than the TX, which has a larger overall size. In terms of driving feeling, it still has a strong sense of comfort, inheriting the driving feeling of the previous INFINITI. Although the classic VQ35 engine is not young, its power performance is still wonderful. I personally like it better. I think it feels more comfortable than today's small displacement turbocharged engines. It may not be as pretty as the current small displacement turbocharged engines in terms of data, but in terms of acceleration, cruising, deceleration, and secondary acceleration, I think VQ is smoother and more linear. In terms of pricing, we can see that the pricing for this 24 model has gone up a bit from when the 22 model first came out, when it first launched. We thought it expensive, but if you look at it today and compare it to the prices of competitors, we can see it's priced fairly generously. As you know, industrial production field, it's all about volume. Only when product sales increase can everything enter a virtuous cycle. When sales become smaller, everything will enter a vicious cycle. Talking about the product alone, I think the QX60 is really great. However, the sales performance on the market is not satisfactory. Volume smaller, the less the manufacturer can support to dealers and distributor. When dealer finds sales is not good, they are unwilling to suffer losses in order to increase sales. Over time, this has entered a vicious cycle. This is also a topic we often talked about before. If a product wants to have good sales, it is not enough to have good product capabilities alone. It needs the support for the surrounding soft and hard environment. Personally, I like the Nissan and INFINITI brands very much. I also hope they will get better and better. Still the same words, buy what you like, don't control, don't be shy. Above video, thank you all.